Michelle O'Neill here, and I am thrilled to be with you this morning on The Meeting Place. Well, welcome. Come on in. If this is your first time, go ahead and put hashtag newbie and let me know who you are and where you're from. If you are a returning member, and I know you, go ahead and put a hashtag legacy because you are a legacy member. Tell me where you're from and your name, and I'd love to give you a shout out. So go ahead and do that. You're probably wondering, okay, who is this girl sitting here talking to me? I am Michelle O'Neill, your purposeful living coach and boundary strategist, and I help those heart-centered, high-achieving, successful women create and execute their unique blueprint for creating that extraordinary life that you were designed for. And so I wanted to come with you today with a question that, I've heard a lot lately, and it's come up for me. And it's, how can I reconcile my personal values and beliefs with expectations and demands of society? So, do I need to say that again? Because I just stumbled all over it. But how can I reconcile my personal values and beliefs with expectations and demands of society? And so I started thinking about that, did a little research and stuff. And society often imposes expectations and demands that can be in conflict with our own personal values and beliefs, right? And they can include pressures to conform to certain beauty standards or prioritizing career and success over family and messing up with your personal relationships. And it's things of prioritizing your material possessions and financial successes over fulfillment and happiness. And no one wants to live like that. And we do things like constantly dieting and living that perfection, wanting to be perfect because we feel that that's what society expects us to do. Things like cosmetic surgery because society says this is the standard for beauty, that straight nose, that this, your hair like this. And we do the things just so we look like everybody else. Have you ever been walking around places and seen that everybody's hair kind of looks the same, or it's kind of that same style? I remember, I think it was in the 80s or the 70s, it was that big Farrah Fawcett flyback hair. I'm telling my age, I know. But what I'm saying is society dictates what we think is beautiful or ugly or whatever, what's in, what's not in, what clothes we wear. And the same thing about our financial success and our careers and family, whether it's a family value society at this time or whether it's go ahead and be big and bad and have your money, have your success, have the cars. If cars dictate that this is what makes you powerful, this is what makes you great. So a lot of times we can remember that things about being like the Joneses, doing like the Joneses do. Oh, I want to be like the Joneses. Well, that's what I'm talking about. Societal demands and expectations on what your life should look like. Is it right? Is that how we want to live? Or are we willing to do what we need to do to live by our own values and beliefs? And so it can get easy. It's so easy to get caught up in that societal pressure. And especially our young kids today, when you're at school every day and everybody's wearing this type of clothes, or all the cute girls get all this attention and this is how you're supposed to look. But we still deal with that now as adults. The soccer mom, this is how a mom. I was never, ever, ever the stereotypical mom. My idea of fun was going to the mall. Me and my daughter went to fun together. I didn't do all that mom stuff per se. I was different. But that's what worked for us. We were the musical family. So we loved doing musicals together, dancing around the home. But we realized what was important to us and how to build our relationships on that. And that's what I'm talking about, because it is so easy to get caught up into societal's pressures and lose sight of what truly matters to us. It's important for us to be aware of these pressures, because a lot of times we just fall right in them because that's what everybody does. And it's so easy to give in, right? Because otherwise you're fighting against the tide. It's kind of like swimming, being a fish and swimming upstream when everybody else is going downstream. You're just pushing against everybody else, and it's hard work. So who wants to push that hard? So a lot of times we just let things go, but in doing that we have to make sure that we're aware of the pressures so that we can make a conscious effort to align our values and our beliefs with what's going on around us. There are times when we just have to absolutely move away, say no, go the other way, whatever it is. So that's when I'm, hey Jahari, how you doing? It's great to see you here. So what I'm saying is we have to experience an inner peace or satisfaction. And what does that look? I notice that as I get older, I am fighting for that inner peace and satisfaction. And each one of us we are so unique that we have our own values and beliefs. And finding that balance, that's what's key for us, is actually finding the balance. What are the things that we're going to compromise on? What are the things that we're going to let go? What are the things we're going to fight for? And that's how we find that peace and that satisfaction, because we know we're not going against the grain. We're not going against our grain. I'm not talking about society's grain. I'm talking about our grain. And so it's so important that we understand, one, what we stand for, what our values and beliefs are, and what is society pushing back for us. Because a lot of times, because it's just what we grew up with or what everybody else is doing, that we'll go ahead and just fall right into it. Yes, balance is key. Thanks for that. Let me go ahead and pop that up here. Balance is key. So the thing is, what you don't realize, and a lot of times we just fall into things. Remember, the clothes that they wore in the 60s is not the same clothes they wore in the 70s, the 80s. The hair was different in the 90s. All time, society is constantly changing. Do you want to be on that hamster wheel of constantly changing because that's what's in, that's what new? What was worn last year is not the same thing worn this year. And the color, last year's color, ask Pantone. Last year's color is totally different from this year's color. So society would change on you in a hot minute. But we should always be open to learning and reevaluating our own perspective, what it is that is important to us and what truly matters to us. So, with all that said, would you believe that that was just the introduction? With that said, in this video, I will be covering understanding your personal values and beliefs, understanding society's expectation and demands, and reconciling personal values and beliefs with society's expectations and demands. So let's go right ahead into what is our values and beliefs. How do we define our values and beliefs? Personal values are your actual guiding principles of the standards that you hold to be the most important in your life and inform your actions, because your personal values and beliefs is actually what you're going to act on when you do things. It's how you see things. It's your perspective. It's your beliefs. It's the things you grew up on. It's the things that you value whole. Like my personal values is love, is integrity. And I forgot what the third one is. Excellence. And so with that said, that is so important to me. And so when I look at things, when I'm evaluating things, I ask myself, how's your heart? Are you looking at this? Are you dealing with this person? Are you working in this in love? Are you being 100% integral? And I'm not just saying honest. Honest is what everyone sees on the outside, but integrity is what you do from the inside. And so I have to ask myself, where are you serving from? Where are you working from? And so these are my personal values. And so they guide everything I do. I question myself. I reevaluate myself. And I ask, am I living up to who I want to be? Personal beliefs are deeply held convictions that you hold true about yourself and the world around you. So I don't just expect this of myself. To be honest, I expect it of those that I associate with, those that I'm around. It hurts my heart when someone is being dishonest, when someone isn't being true, because I expect that of myself. And I think that in doing that, that you should treat me the same way. Now, I'm not saying that's right. Let me back up here. Just because that's our values and beliefs doesn't mean that everyone else have to fall into our values and beliefs. But hold that thought, because I want to get into that a little later about how we deal with that situation. Personal values and beliefs are formed through a combination of our experiences, the things that we learned through the things that we went through, our cultural influences. What kind of family did you grow up in? Because a family that has these values is totally different. African American family could be totally different than uh, a Native American family or other families. So what I'm saying is we have our own different cultures. And I'm not talking ethnicity. Woo, can't get it out. What I'm talking about is our cultures, how we deal, whether it's Caribbean culture versus Midwestern culture. So we all have different cultural and we all have personal reflections. It's how that we take something in, how did we deal with it? Because the way you look at something, remember, I always talk about perspectives, isn't the way I look at something. I always say there's three perspectives. There's your perspective, my perspective, and the real perspective. And so we have to look at all those things. You probably wonder, how is our values and beliefs forms? Well, they're shaped by a combination of factors of our upbringing, like I said, your life experiences, your cultural, personal values may also change and evolve over time because of their different experiences. There are different things that we've learned along the way. We've grown, the way we've handled things. As a person, we grow. So as we grow, our values and belief change. It is important to understand that we are a reflection of our unique identity and sense of purpose. So when we know our values and beliefs, that's what help us walk into our purpose, because we're walking true to who we are. I work hard with my clients to make sure that they can clarify and walk with confidence in this area. What are your values? What are the things that you hold true? Because you know what? You need to know what they are, because if you don't, you'll wonder why you keep resorting back to different things. Why you always act this way when something, because you don't realize that that is a deeply embedded value or deeply embedded belief that you hold true. And no matter what anyone else says, no matter what society says, no matter what your best friend says, if you believe that that is true, you're going to fall back to that unless you change it. And you go through the process to change it if you don't want to keep it. So we really have to understand our values and beliefs. We have to allow for life. We have to allow for ourselves to be more authentic so that we have a more fulfilling life. If you're not being who you truly are, it's like wearing a mask. Remember when we just went through this COVID thing and we wore a mask over it for so long? And then after a while, it became cumbersome. It became a nuisance. And the thought of wearing that mask was actually choking. We felt like it was taking our breath away. Well, that's what happens when we're not living authentically to who we are. We're choking the life out of ourselves. We're taking our breath away, the life breath. So it is so important that we understand who we are. And this awareness, this understanding of our values and beliefs allows for better decision making, better communication with others, and it helps us align with that sense of compassion and empathy for others. When you understand yourself, you're no longer prideful. Envy takes a back seat. So you're able to look at others with compassion and empathy and caring, not only for others, but for yourself. Your values are grounded more in, when you understand it, and they are grounded in a sense of love and kindness and understanding, and they help guide your actions. And so if you ever think understanding this one, oh my gosh, I just drag down on this. I just hammer down on this. If you ever want to understand why you do what you do and why you can't move forward and why you can't get past your limiting beliefs, I challenge you to look at your values and your beliefs and determine which ones you're going to keep and which ones you're going to give away. Understanding your values and beliefs can also help you set the boundaries that you need to set in your life. So, what am I saying? Look, if you don't have something firm to stand on, if you don't know why you're doing something, if you don't know why this is important to you, how do you stand firm with conviction? How do you say no? You're easy wavered to or fro. You're easily knocked off kilter because you don't even know yourself. You're not even sure yourself. But if you are sure and strong in your values and belief, if you know without a shadow of a doubt who you are, if you are aligned, you can stand firm on your boundaries, and it's easier for you to put them in place. And who doesn't need to put some boundary? It's a daily thing. There's always going to be somebody that's going to give you some pushback. And you have to be strong and understand where you need to be able to stand firm and push back. And lastly, I want you to understand that your values and beliefs and understand them is essential for your personal growth and your self-discovery and your ability to live a purposeful life. How are you going to know what your calling is? How are you going to know if you're lined up with your purpose if you don't know your values and beliefs? And so then I want to talk about understanding. We understand us, right? We understand what's important to us. But now I want you to understand society's expectations and demands. And so I want to hit two definitions here. Now, society's expectations are the unwritten or written rules that society has. There are laws, the norms, the values that dictate how you should. Did you get that? How you should behave, how you should think, how you should feel within that particular community and culture. And every culture is different. I am so blessed and so just honored that over my life, I have had the opportunity to live at least, how many years was it? I think 20 something years, 20 plus years overseas. And I've lived in different cultures. I've lived in Greece. I've lived in Japan. I've lived in the Philippines. I've lived in Okinawa. Islands mostly too. But the thing is that I've had the opportunity to experience the differences of the culture. And each culture comes with its own norms, the things that dictate. I can tell. Perfect example is one of the things I realized in Japan, when they go, a lot of times in at least in mainland Japan, when a lot of people go on trips, when they go on those trips, those bus trips or those trips to vacation trips, that most of the times in Japan, it was a group effort. And so the group stayed together and everything was done by the group leader. And the group leader would always have a flag so everyone would know that's my group leader. She's the one with the green flag that says whatever, and that's who I follow. And I remember watching and think, boy, it's almost like hurting. But they had less loss of people. Everything was organized. It was just different. It was different because in the US, everybody wants to go on their own way. They want to do their own thing. They don't want anybody to tell them what to do. If they want to sit there and drink and everybody else go off to the next thing, that's what they want to do. And so we are a society that is more individual. And I had to learn that. I had to understand that it was different. In Greece, it was more of a very family oriented. And I'm not just talking personal family. I'm talking extended family. I'm talking neighbors. Everything was about inclusion and family and community. The first thing you'd hear in the morning would be, Ananula, tikanete. It was all that is people just greeting each other and being nice to each other and sharing food with each other. And so all that to say is cultures are different everywhere, and that's our norm. That was expected for those cultures. And when we understand that, we understand that these are society expectations. And then what are society demands? They are the explicit or implicit requirements of pressure that individuals are expected to meet in order to be accepted. So society demands that I'm trying to think of one. I can't think right off the top of my head, but they're the demands that society demands that you make a living for yourself, that you work. Well, actually, I demand that too. I want to be able to pay for my food. But the thing is, that is a societal demand. That's what's expected here, that you work for your keep, that you take care of yourself. When you're 18, you get out of the house. That's not true that much anymore. But that's what I'm talking about when I talk about. And these expectations or demands that come from a variety of sources, including family, friends, community, is passed down through family, our media, our government. How many times have you watched things on TV and it's like everybody is saying the same thing because that's what's expected? Truth is no longer truth. Lies are truth. This is no longer truth. This is no longer right because society says this is how we're going to accept it. And so that's how we have to look up. Every decade, every year, every century is different, and society is constantly changing. And we can also it's just important to understand that these are not universal, and it's different, and they're not absolute. They're forever changing. And I will say that over and over again. So there are examples of society's demands that I want to talk about. Like I said, career and family expectations. What do your family expect you to do? How are you expected as a woman to be a mom? What does a mom look like? What does a good girl look like? What does a successful woman look like? How are you supposed to act? You're not supposed to raise your voice. You're not supposed to talk back to me. You better get yourself together or whatever. How are we supposed to act? Those are your family has set expectations for you growing up. Oh, don't be throwing no fit on me. I remember my mom used to say, you act up in public, I will embarrass you in public. So it's the expectations. Career, what's expected? How are you supposed to act when you work? There are dress codes. How are you supposed to dress when you come in here? How are you supposed to address the boss? How are you supposed to treat each other? What are the expectations on your lunchtime? And those are all expectations, rules. Remember I said rules, guidelines, the norm. Everybody gets ready to go before at 5 minutes before quitting time. Well, quitting time is quitting time, so you don't quit to quitting time. But there are certain norms within even certain offices. It's okay to go to the bathroom and get this and do this 5 minutes before, shut down your computer. even though technically you're not off till 5 minutes later. So we all have our own norms. What are you supposed to look like? What is healthy? What is not healthy? What is beautiful? What is not beautiful? What about gender roles? How is a girl supposed to act? How is a boy supposed to act? Oh, he's effeminate. Oh, she is just a tomboy. Oh, she is too rough. A girl can't like boy dolls. A boy can't like girl dolls. All those are gender expectations that we're supposed to have growing up. You know, girls aren't supposed to be in techie. I have twin granddaughters, totally different, even though they're twins. One loves music. Anything music, she's all in it. She's singing and everything. And the second one, oh, that's my stems girl. If it can be taken apart, she will take it apart and she will put it back together. She will find out how to get out of somewhere. Even before you know it, she's gone. And I remember once she actually got out of the playpen and held it down so her sister could get out too. And so these are things, there are normal social behaviors that is expected. And then there's that pressure to be perfect. Well, if you show me someone that's perfect, hallelujah. But I've yet to know any human being on this earth who is perfect. So how does society's expectations and demands, how do they conflict with our personal values and belief? Well, we talked about this a little bit, but it compromises our values and beliefs when we're fighting with society's demands and they don't coincide. And so it causes us to feel discontented, discombobulated. We feel like we're not being ourselves. Remember, I talked about that mask, and we're not walking in our purpose. We may also be putting undue pressures on ourselves to act a certain way when it's not who we are. And so you have to make a determination at that time. Am I going to follow society, or am I going to follow what's true? Because if we don't, it leads to feelings of isolation, feelings of rejection, and even oppression. Those are all legitimate feelings of us conforming to society instead of living true to ourselves. So the final point I want to really hammer in on is, how do we reconcile personal values and beliefs with society's expectations and demands? You know, what are the strategies that we can use? And I want to give you some definite strategies that you can use to help you align your personal goals and beliefs with society's expectations. Setting those personal boundaries. And you know, we talked about this before. When you are dialed in and really know what your values and beliefs are, you can stand firm, but you need to be clear. You just don't know it yourself. If nobody else know what your values are, or what's important to you, or you haven't articulated that, or you haven't communicated that, how is anybody else going to know? So you need to articulate, be clear on what your values are and beliefs are, and communicate it with others. You need to prioritize your values. You can't meet all your values. So you have to know which ones are most important to me. What is it above all that is important? That's why I picked my top 3. And the biggest of all is love. That when I work with you, when I talk with others, when I communicate with others, when I serve others, that it's done with love. And I will check myself. That's what I'm talking about. Am I walking in integrity? Am I walking in not only what you feel is honest, but am I being honest with myself? It's kind of like when I walk along the street and I see some paper, somebody threw some gum paper on the floor, on the ground, and I can walk by because I ain't do it. But I take a few steps and I just can't. And I turn around and I go back and I pick it up because I know it's not supposed to be there and it's wrong. And I'm not your keeper. But I know littering is not what's supposed to be there, so I pick it up. And in that case, I am conforming to society's demand. But you have to practice self-awareness as well, and reflection to understand your motivation behind why you're doing the things, why you are giving in or conforming to society's expectations and demands. Like that one I just talked about, picking up that gum wrapper, because I know the damage that that can do over time. And I got a little OCD. And so seeing that trash on the street drives me crazy. But that's what I'm talking about. Ask yourself questions like, what's important to me? What do I stand for? And that's how you start reconciling your values with society's demands. When I talked about picking that paper up again, because of my personality and because it's important for order and cleanliness to me, by picking that up, not only am I conforming to society's demand, but I am also conforming to my values of what's right and what I expect of myself. Do you see how they work together? Do you get that? And so I want you to do this, reevaluate, be self aware, reflect on your motivation of why you do things. And motivation is important too. Find common ground on areas that you can compromise. Again, the example I just gave. Seek like minded people who share the same values and beliefs or similar values and beliefs that you do. And a perfect example, I was just talking to someone the other day, and they were talking about their values and that they were getting ready to go on a trip, a girls' trip, let's say. And I asked them, are the people that you're going with people that you would normally hang with? Because they were trying to decide if it was something that they really wanted to do, right? And think about that. If you went on a trip because you wanted to go on a trip and it would be fun to get away, but the people that you were hanging with did things and talked about things and carried themselves in a way that was uncomfortable or not you, do you think it's wise to be there around them? Could you find yourself maybe in a situation or situations that became really uncomfortable for you, that caused you to act against your values and beliefs because their society, the things that they wanted to do, was different from yours? And so this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying evaluate and be careful of who you're around. Seek like-minded people. Seek people who have some of the same thoughts and values as you do. Open communication. Communicate your values and beliefs clearly, but in a respectful manner. Don't be hammering someone over the head. You are doing this wrong. This is what I believe. No. Just have a normal conversation and say, hey, I understand this is how you do, but I'm not comfortable with that. And so I'm going to have to let you do that on your own. I'm not telling you what to do, but I wanted you to understand where I'm coming from. And in this instance, I can't partake in that with you. I can't do that with you. I understand you come from another place. I understand you believe other things. But let's just agree to disagree on this one. Let's agree to be different. Be respectful, but also be clear about what's important to you. But also be open to learning and growing from different perspectives. Just because you're different, just because your values are different, just because you believe different, doesn't mean that you close the ear, do a blind, close your eyes or whatever to what someone else thinks, to what someone else feels. Be open to listen to them and their motivation and why, because you'll learn a lot about that person. Don't be quick to place judgment on them. You never know someone unless you know their story. And you don't know what's behind what they do. what they grew up with, what their beliefs are, what they've learned, what they've experienced. So you have to be open to knowing and understanding and growing from different perspectives. It gives you a better perspective. And like I said before, seek balance. Always seek balance in this. What things can I compromise on? Which things are lower on my value scale that I'm willing to compromise on? And then those ones at your top, know that you just won't compromise on those. I would encourage you to pick your 3 top values. So you know some things that they are non-negotiable. These are the things that I will not move on. And after all that, saying that, these are the things that I want to tell you, be flexible. Life is ever changing. The things you learn, the things you experience, they are ever changing. So what you need to do is reevaluate that new information. Soak in those new experiences and ask yourself, what have I learned from this? Recognize the power and the importance of advocating for yourself and your beliefs. You matter too. Your life matters. You're unique. You're special. You're extraordinary and exceptional. Recognize the power and the importance of advocating for yourself and your belief. Empower yourself to stand up for yourself. And then one of the things that I am always talking to my clients about is their ERP. What is your ERP? Your emergency response plan. And why is it so important? You want to prepare for the potential resistance and backlash that you may give when you give your pushback, right? So it's a process that I build in when I work with my clients, is that we prepare for those things and the pushback that we may get, so that when it happens, we're not caught off guard. We can already play that scenario in our mind, and we know how we want to react. You know, when there's a conflict, we can just stand back and assess the situation. We can consider the consequences. If I push back, is this the time to push back? What are the possibilities of what can happen when I push back? Am I willing to deal? Am I willing at this time to deal with the attitude, the silence, whatever it is that you may experience? Is there a way that in this, without compromising my values and belief, that I can find a compromise? Is there a way that we can both walk away from this with a win-win situation? Be prepared to stand up for yourself. Stand strong and seek support. Remember those like-minded people I was telling you about? Seek support. Know that they got your back. You got your peeps, your posse, you know? So seek support. And then sometimes we have to just step away and reflect on what's going on. You never have to react right then. I say, yeah, in a lot of ways, I say we're required to respond, but not necessarily to react. And a simple response will be, let me get back to you. I need to think about that. Or just saying things like, I need to step away for right now. And so I just want you to know that, again, society's demands and expectations can change over time. I want you to know to be prepared to make sacrifices. Isn't that what love is? Sometimes we have to make those sacrifices. but do it because you want to. Give it as a gift, not because you have to. Be open to change, to growth, to experiences. I hope that this has given you a lot to think about today. I just want to summarize our main points that today we got a greater understanding of our personal values and beliefs and their importance, and we got an understanding of how society's expectations and demands can impact and influence or have conflict with our personal values and beliefs. And so we got a better understanding of some things that we can do and how we can reconcile with the conflicts that can arise between the two. And sometimes understanding helps us move forward on that road to creating better relationships, better life, more fulfillment, and walking in our calling towards our purpose. Finally, I pray that I have answered that question that started this whole conversation. You asked me, how can I reconcile my personal values and my beliefs with the expectations and demands that hit me every day from society? I've given you a few things to think about. I encourage you to reflect on your values and beliefs and how they align. Can they align? Which ones align with society's expectations and demand? Stand up for what you believe in. Empower yourself, knowing what your values and beliefs are, and embrace self-reflection. Sometimes just journaling, talking to a trusted friend or family member, or even working with a life coach can help you just put things in perspective. Create a path to walk on the journey that's for your life. Take action and go ahead and make that positive change in your life and in the world by living in alignment with your values and beliefs. This is so important. I want you to remember that this process is ongoing. It's an everyday thing. It's something that when we wake up in the morning, we have to decide, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stand strong in who I am. And it's never, never, never too late to start making the changes to live a life more authentic and fulfilling. And the more ways that you begin to navigate society's demands on your life and stand strong on your values and beliefs, the stronger you get. And so if you want to find out more about how to do that, if you are struggling in that area, go ahead and contact me and find out ways that I can help you on HTTPS. Let me go ahead and see if I can get it. HTTPS. Let's see. There we go. //meet.michelleoneil.com. Again, that's HTTPS://meet, MEET.michelleoneil.com, and see how I can help you move forward in combating or beating out society's expectations and demands that don't meet with your values and beliefs. I've really enjoyed our time together. Let me go ahead and set this. And so with that said, I am so glad that you were with me today. Thank you, Jahari, for your comments. And girl, I will comment back on them. Didn't have my glasses on, so you know how that is. I can't see. But thank you for being here. It's a vanity thing, not a society thing, okay? I encourage you to stay strong and live on purpose. Until the next meeting place, take care. I look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.